Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to CSTV. This is your host, Kathleen, and welcome to Politics with the BBS. But today, I'm not with Mr. B. I have a visitor with me. His name is Mr. Kevin Osundwa, and he is an aspirant member of County Assembly or the MCA in Isongo Makunga Ward. So I want to invite my guest to tell you who he is and actually what brings us here today, because I don't want to talk much about him, yet we have him on the show. So, Mheshimiwa, tafadhali, you have the platform. Say hi to our viewers.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor for us to get such an opportunity to be able to engage. As my host has said, my name's Kevin Osundwa, with a broad or wide experience in the education sector. I started as a trainer at ZTech, as a lecturer at ZTech. Then with experience, I moved to the examination body, where I've worked with the UK examination, started with City and Guilds as a business manager and then quality. Then moved from ZTech, City and Guilds, and currently now work with ICM, where so still a UK examination body. So most of my interaction is with the learners or the students who in the TVET sector. And you realize that when they graduate, majority of them will be complaining about the job sector. And that's why maybe from the education sector, we are thinking that with experience, having done projects across the Africa, we're thinking that now we can now take this experience to the county assembly so that we can be we can bring reforms that we believe that those reforms will have a positive impact to this country. So my career, as I say, currently I'm with the examination body, but I'm also in touch with the people of Malaha, isongo, makunga ward. So this is where my heart is. I'm believe that I'll be moving there to the assembly and bring a number of reforms that I believe will address the issues that people always keep on complaining. Thank you.
Wow, my viewers, this one is a bomb. This one is educated. Hey, now, he is a man with a lot of experience in the world of the academia, especially with the TVET sector, that is the Technical Training Institute sector. And he says that he wants to call these skills to the National Assembly. So my first question, Mr. Kevin, is, how does your knowledge connect to your political ambitions in Makunga ward?
Having said that, majority of people that we have, especially the learners, they'll always do the training, and after that they go back to the village. Graduates, you've come across graduates from the universities who are complaining that I did this course and then I'm back in the village. So there's a disconnect between real employment, or the employer or the entrepreneur, and the training. So what I'm bringing in is that with the experience I have in the cottage skill, the experience I have in the scholarship, with the skills that I have in the gaps in the project implementation, talking about legislation in the assembly, where we can look at how we work on that gap. That when we finish, even when students talk about finishing the college, there's always that demand that you're supposed to have experience, certain years of experience for you to get a job. So we bring legislation that can address that. Where do you get experience when you've just left the university the other day? So we are bringing legislation that can talk about even the government having a legislation where we'll have them, these students getting absorbed in the government ministries or the parastatal for that 2 years experience, be paid or not paid, or within even the NY, so that we can have that element of no experience working out with that, sorting out that mess. So there's a lot of reforms in terms of even entrepreneurship. Also, we're looking at the current problem MCAs. All of them are just complaining the resources is not enough. And the question you ask them, you have a network, you have a platform to use it. So what are you doing at individual level? So there's a lot of conversation that we're going to bring at the assembly.
And maybe another question that I could ask you before I come back to what you just explained in terms of policy, because I think policy making majorly touches on the National Assembly, and here you are eyeing at the County Assembly. I'm coming back to that question later for you to tell me how you're going to connect the two. But before even I talk about that, I'm seated here and I'm trying to look at the word isongo makunga word in Malaha, and I'm asking, what is this major gap? Like, you can tell the people of Makunga that within the first 5 years, this is one major thing that I'm actually going to address. And you commit yourself to addressing to that if given an opportunity, or if the people of Makunga would elected you. What is this gap, Mr. Kevin?
Thank you so much for that question. And I think that gap more of addresses my manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, people are talking about an equal distribution and allocation of ward jobs and ward resources. So how do we make sure that, because I have 3 locations, I have Malaha location, I have Isongo location, and I have Makunga location, how do I make sure that all the jobs that we get are equally distributed? Wow. So I have to identify how many locations do I have, how many villages do I sub-location, and how many villages do I have, and how can I distribute B5 jobs, B6 jobs equally. So number one is equal distribution of jobs and resources. It's a major concern, and you can only do that when you engage people, because all this you cannot, like, I have 15,000 voters. I cannot feed all of them, but we can make sure that we pick from at least all they feel represented, all of them represented. But when you pick from one area, it means that the other area will be complaining. So number one, equal distribution and allocation of ward jobs and resources. Number two, I'm talking about farming and agribusiness. I come from an area where people could depend on Mumia's sugar, and now we no longer have the factory. So I'm talking about now the agribusiness and farming. How do we make business, agriculture as a business? So how do we support farmers with seedlings? How do we support farmers with fertilizers? How do we support farmers with the plowing? So we engage even the county government and push where we can even have a tractor, we can even have distribution of fertilizer, or even at a subsidized price that farmers can be able to do their farming that will produce something meaningful, that can produce something that they can even now market or sell to the market. So agriculture is another area that I'll be looking at. Every year the county government allocates a ward 10 kilometers roads. So how do I distribute this one? I'll make sure that the farm output can reach the market. So road network is another area that we'll be looking at. So we make sure that the 3 locations can be connected, can be interconnected, so that we have the produce in the farm getting to the market. We also talk about unemployment, and that is a major concern. Unemployment for youth, employment for women. I can tell you, having done a project, I've done a project in Tanzania, British Gas, where we could train youth and place them the work employment. It's called British Gas. It was in a place called Mutwara and Lindi. So how do we address the issue of unemployment? Number one, I'll be looking at setting up a resource center. So the 3 locations, we can set up resource center that can be able to tap in the talent, can be able to look at acting, film. So a resource center, the 3 resource centers in the 3 locations, so that we can have each location the resource center that can look at entrepreneurship, that can talk about talent, that can link good footballers, good acting into the mainstream industry. So you link these footballers to have a scholar. Like December, we had a tournament where I was linking the youth from the area to Zitech University, where now they can get a scholarship and now pursue their career. See, football has a period, or has a season. It will reach a place where it will end. So with my resource center, it will make sure that these players that we have can be connected to clubs, can be connected to universities, can be connected to colleges, so that they can become teachers later. They can become entrepreneurs later. I have a passion for something called industrialization, and I've championed industrialization because looking at how China, how Japan have moved from unemployment. So industrialization is something that I can be able. I'm keenly concerned with, and a very simple factor. You look at even Kisumu. Between Kisumu, I think next to Kibosi, there's a Kamila. There's a Mila where they're doing unga. So ask myself, Luyas love ugali, but we don't have even a milling factory ya kutengeza ugali peke yake. So how do we now support industrialization? So we talk about industrialization in terms of with the little that we have. And one of the things that I'll try to avoid is life of excuses that we don't have resources. You've been elected as a leader. You have a network. To use that network to build like a small factory. So I'm looking at a factory, a bakery factory, a milling factory, a value chain factory that we can produce soaps, we can produce unga, we can produce. So an industrialization would be another key agenda that will help me address the concern of unemployment. And I'm also looking at education. With my network in education, of course, I can't miss on my list. How do I help young people in terms of scholarship that I come across? So right now, like I have a program where I walk to secondary schools and encourage young people, talk to them about the education system that we have from KenQA, where if someone stopped at class 8, you can still find yourself, do artisan certificate, move all the way to university and do your PhD. So that career awareness, that education support, those education clinic is a major thing that I'll be engaged in to ensure that we improve on the performance. At the same time, we reduce the level of literacy in our area. So education linkages, education scholarship is another area that I'll be more concerned. I'm also looking at the health sector. Of course, the health sector is under the county government, and for me, within my powers, is to put a legislation where we are pushing manpower. In like Makunga Hospital, do we have enough manpower? Do we have enough drugs? So that would be another area that would be of concern. And lastly, for us to get all these activity done, we need money. So a legislation to have ward fund will be key and to be a factor to have, so that we put out together and say that at this let the ward be allocated this amount of money so that it can implement these activities. As much as we'll have other networks, we'll have friends that will help us to implement these, but the ward level, the ward fund will be a key factor in this conversation.
Wow. I see a growth vision for the ward. I want to ask, you spoke about the road network, which is very, very key in the agricultural sector. You also spoke about pushing for policies for equal distribution of funds, equal job opportunities. And when you spoke about pushing for policies, I was asking myself, we know that, yes, the county assembly, like the members of the county assembly, are very key when it comes to pushing for policy formulation. But you also realize that the National Assembly is also responsible for policy formulation. And then when you talk about the road network, you realize that the road construction in this country lies in the hands of, there are those roads that are under the National Assembly, and there are those roads that are under the county assembly. So meaning that you as an MCA, for you to have these objectives attained, you have to bring in the aspect of the member of parliament, the member of parliament of your area, and the governor of your county. How are you going to do this to avoid duplication of laws or having conflicts in terms of development, where one leader does this and another one comes and does the same thing?
One of the things, and I appreciate, is that I'm lucky. I'm one of the people that have got an opportunity to go to school. Okay. And in a social setup, dialogue, or like you talk about social community and social development or social work, there's something called dialogue. and it should be very clear what are the roles of an MCA, what are the roles of an MP, what are the roles of the governor, so that you don't find yourself overlapping and stepping someone's territory. As I said earlier, like you see, what right now doesn't have a location, and that's why I talk about pushing that allocation of ward fund. I've talked about 10 kilometers. Okay, of course, this money is normally allocated from the governor's office. And as I said, you're given 10 kilometers per ward. So there's no conflict, because there's a very clear which roads belong to the member of parliament, which roads belong to the national government, which roads belong to the MCA. Those roads that can just connect a village, those ones are supposed to be repaired or supposed to be fixed by the MCA, and within that 10,000, within those 10 kilometers. So there's no clear, there's no conflict of interest, or there's no conflict among the three arms. In fact, for me, is to use that opportunity to bring these people together, because once the office, we asked ourselves after 5 years, we just asked me after 5 years, what will be your measure? What will you have delivered within that 5 years? So it's very clear that this will be roads, this will be assignment for the governor, this will be assignment for MCA, this will be assignment for member of parliament. When it comes to legislation, we talk about laws that can be passed, laws that will add value within the laws that will work within the assembly. So I talked about the policy, and MCAs have a duty to pass laws that govern the running of the county. So we'll not have a conflict, but will be laws that are conducive, or laws that are good for the purpose of ensuring that people get the services. At the end of the day, if you find like an area MP and governor or senator are fighting, it means that they've lacked their purpose, they've lacked the vision. Because at the end of the day, they should be serving the people. They should be asking themselves, let's share notes, let's consult, and let's see where we can do, let's see where we can work as a team and build the community and build the county. So that at the end of the day, all of us will have a legacy to leave, that when I was there for the 5 years, this is my achievement.
Okay. And another one, another question maybe. We see you with your photos all over the social media, in deflectors, in calendars, in posters, but we don't see the political party that actually you are running with. So maybe to let your supporters know and the viewers understand, this man, Kevin, which political party are you actually aspiring this MCA position from? Is it ANC? Is it Naki Kenya? Is it UDA? Is it ODM? Clear the hair, mister.
On a lighter note, I hope we have not been hired by my opponent, so that I talk about the party.
I've not been hired.
The biggest scam we have. Maybe before I mention that, I'm a former Secretary General of a national party called Roots Party. So I understand what is a party. I understand how to manage a party. So I served as Secretary General for the last for 3 years. Now, are we looking for the services, or are we looking for the party here? At the end of the day, it's about the service. I'll give an example. If like the governing the right now, we talk about Jubilee. Jubilee was a national party, but we talk about, we mentioned, even I know my current area MP was elected on Jubilee. But when I was home over last weekend, I was looking for the office of Jubilee, and I could not find the office of Jubilee. So to me, it's not about the party; it's about the individual, what this individual runs for. So right now, the party has not been a priority. I'll say that because if we have issues, we ask the person we elected, not the party. The party is just a vehicle. If I'm moving from my village, Busia, all the way to Kakamega to Nairobi, I'll use a motorcycle, I'll use a bicycle, I'll use a matatu, I'll even use 3 matatus. At the end of the day, the destiny is Kakamega or Nairobi. So to me, a party right now is not a priority. But I have friends in ANC, I have friends in UDA, I have friends in ODM. But I'm looking at what will Kevin deliver as a person. What will Kevin deliver? What will be the legacy in the 5 years from August 2022 to 2027? So to me, as a party right now, a party is not a priority, but telling people that we have people change their parties. Like right now, take an example of right now. My current area MP, I'm even confused in which party is he right now. So if I talk about that I'm this party, or I'm championing the ideology of this party. And also, okay, parties are good because now they streamline the politics, but also they become of a prison because you will not speak of what you think, because you limit yourself. You find yourself that you have to speak the party, what the party says. And you may have a contradictory opinion. Like right now, I'll question the Jubilee government. If like those who are in Jubilee and probably now they're associated with the UDA that talk about creating employment, creating jobs for you, and yet they were not able to create the jobs. Now you see, when in the party, you will be forced to say yes, we will create. But when you have an independent mind, you can question them, you can help them even articulate the issue. Say yes, we talk about leave alone even just at the award level. Because for me, I'm looking at my agenda on manufacturing with the 245 wards. I can even help create uh, 2 million jobs within the first 5 years, because we have an agenda, because we have a clear structure, we have a clear implementation plan for creating an employment for youth. So, but within a party, you'll be told no, the party has structures. You have to listen to the party decision. That's why I find it being tricky to be boxed within a party.
So, Mr. Kevin, can we say then, or can we speculate that actually you are in as an independent candidate, or you are playing safe politics?
What I'm saying right now is to me, a party is not a priority. Okay. Because I look at this party as being more of a briefcase that are out there to con wananchi. So not really that safe politics, because I have an agenda. I've outlined what what I expect to deliver, and I'm friends to all these parties, but to me, all of them have challenges, and I'll not wish to carry their burden. So to me right now, I'll not say that I'm this given party. I'm pushing agenda of Kevin, I'm pushing of agenda of the youth, I'm pushing agenda of equal distribution, but not a party.
Okay. And it has been a nice conversation, Mr. Kevin. And maybe before we close the show, I could ask you, what is this one thing that you want your people at Malaha Isongo Makunga ward know? Or what is this one message that you have for your electorate in your ward?
I think for me, it's just clear that let's elect people who are honest with what they say, who are honest and they're willing and ready to work. I've been tested before. I've championed a situation where I've already supported. I have almost 30 youth who are working in SGR right now through my personal initiative and in partnership with the CDF. I've connected a number of youth in scholarship. I've connected a number of youth in financial institution and so on, scholarship with the universities. So to me, let's be honest. Let's look for a leader who is honest. If it was that I'm going to look for a salary, that would be different. But for me, I'm a servant. I'm looking at how I can serve these people and change their lives, because I believe I came from a village where I could walk to school barefoot, and I've pushed myself to a situation where now talk about the PhD here. So we can hold hands. And if we have a leader who is enlightened, we have a leader who understands, who has a plan, a clear plan, I think that leader will transform lives. So it's not about the party, it's not about the names, it's not about your dad. Even you ask about my dad, is not known, but it's about a vision that this leader has. It's about the plans that this leader has, and we transform lives. So for me, let people be enlightened. We're still working around educating them, because there's a lot of information that we have to share. For me, is a leadership that will transform lives. As a leadership that can change lives. I see people walk around and make noise, and I even ask myself, why can't they even petition? Even maybe the contractor who is working on a project that has stopped, because they're not genuine with what they're talking about. So if we can have genuine within our heart, we'll transform this life. We have a leadership that can connect, a leadership that has a global network. She will bring resources rather than fighting for the small that is there. So to me, I think I'm the right person for Malaha isongo makunga.
Wow. Now, I have two more questions for you. One question touches on the national politics, away from the world politics, and one question touches outside the political sphere of the country. So I'll go to the national politics, and then I finish with the question that is non-political. On the national politics, right now we have two horses, or we have two very clear presidential candidates. That is, we have Baba, and then we have UDA under Dr. William Ruto. From the Oka Alliance, they have not told us who exactly is going to be a presidential flag bearer. So I want to talk about two individuals that you are sure of. And why I'm asking you this question is because these two people have brought two economic models. We have engineer Raila Amolo Odinga, who talks about giving 6,000 to the youth of this country as a way of emancipating the Kenyan youth. And then we also have UDA, led by Dr. William Ruto, who talks about having a bottom-up economic approach. So in your capacity as a person who has been in the arena of the jobs, you spoke greatly how you have interacted in the world of academia. So it tells us that you are somebody who can be able to think beyond mere politics and tell the common citizen the truth and honesty. Which of the two economic models actually is viable in this country, especially at this particular time?
Thank you so much. Not focusing on the personality. I'll look at. I'll start with the ODM, and ODM have the social capital they're talking about is not their main model. The social capital of giving unemployed, and if they talk about vulnerable houses, that is not a model. Of course, it may be tricky, but with enough resources, I'll be against that, because there's something called idle capacity. When you have an idle capacity, like how many youth are unemployed? We talk about 5 million youth. You multiply by the least salary that someone is supposed to earn in a year, that is close to 13,000 or 500 or 14,000 there. So with this idle capacity, rather than giving them 5,000, I'm against giving them 6,000. I'm against that, because why can't we take that money and set up an industry? Because when we talk about that will be close to 6 billion annually. So that is amount that can be used. If you talk about 5 million times 6,000, that is amount that's 30 billion. That's amount that can be used to set up an industry. So it's just that they're not the model. The Baba is not being advised well. That is something that you could have championed industrialization. I think ODM have a model to talk about trickle down, where they talk about empower, set up industries, and that they can employ people. We can have a number of them setting up industry, and I'll go for that. I'll go for that model where we can have more industries in per county. If we talk about the bottom up, it could be tricky, because at the end of the day, okay, you understand we have policies and we have laws that work, once someone gets to the office, like I could talk about Mama Mboga. That Mama Mboga, once I get the president and be sworn in, that Mama Mboga will not even access me. So I'll say that the bottom up may not really work in Kenya if we really serious that we want to increase the tax bracket, where we want more people to come on board for them to pay tax. So they could be talking about now setting up industry, but not putting money or not coming to support Mamboga, because this Mamboga also want to move from being a Mamboga to a bigger industry that can create more employment. So I'll ask myself, how many people will Mamboga employ when she's doing that Mboga? So if they could be talking about like even having an industrial shed where now all these youth, border, they can be trained to start up their own industry, to start up their own small bank where they can be borrowing and doing business, more of a revolving fund will be more. So I'll be more concerned on revolving fund. So the bottom up, I'll not share that has no it may not the implementation part of it, because I'm looking at you want the person to remain in that level, because I'll be more concerned in a model that once, if we talk about border, they'll be moving from border to be an industry where now we're looking at for them even now having a factory to manufacture motorcycles, them to have maybe a factory where they can have spare part for the motorcycle. So just leaving them at that state, it's Mama Mboga, so remain Mama Mboga, will give you 2,000. You're not helping the Mama Mboga. You could have told that this Mama Mboga now will move from these mbogas to value addition, dry that mboga and supply to America, supply to Europe countries. That will make sense. So they two have a model, but to me is they're not honest. They're not honest to build the politicians. They're not honest to build this country, and especially the idle capacity of the youth that we have. It may be tricky. We may, and you see now, there's that following. So we may follow those slogans, but if we talk about genuinely model of creating an employment, then to me I'll be talking about, tell us how do you move Mama Mboga, move them from Mama Mboga to people who own hotels. Tell us how we move from the motor pikipiki to someone, a taxi driver, or someone who owns probably tour agents. So we should have such model that can really change. If we talk about transforming the economy, as I said, idle capacity. If those people are idle, are not working, are not paying tax, then we are wasting resources.
Okay, wow, that was such a nice thought response. And now, outside politics, we are seeing the current wave of indiscipline cases in schools. I know it may not be political, but the youths or these young children who are planning our schools are the leaders of tomorrow, or they are the same people you will hand over the leadership mantles to a few years from now. We see even Kakamega School was in flames now. And some leaders have alluded to the idea that a portion of corporal punishment in our schools is actually what has led to this increased level of indiscipline cases in our schools. What do you think, as a citizen of this country, as an aspiring leader of this country, can be done to reduce these cases of indiscipline in our secondary and primary schools?
First of all, I'll start by blaming the human rights. They talk about the rights, but where your rights ends, where my rights starts or begins. So you champion rights, Manafunda, the student will not be punished in school. They ban the dormitory, they block the roads, or they stone people around. So to me, I think punishment should be corporal punishment should be reintroduced. And number two, parenting. There's a gap in our parenting. We leave our kids with toys and the TV and cartoons and the internet. So the world has changed. So parenting also has left that gap where now they find they're being trained by another person. We've left a lot of discipline to the teacher. Once you've paid school fees, you're not there. So to me, it calls upon the parent aspect. The ministry has some policies that a teacher just walk to class, teach and go. The other issues will be handled by probably the ministry itself. So to me, we headed the wrong direction. You ban a school, you ban a dormitory, you've wasted time, you've wasted the resources. So building that school again, it may take time. So you're wasting yourself. And I can even assure those children or those students who are banning school, they'll struggle out there. They'll struggle. They'll have a hard time to fit in the society. Right now, they're very lucky that they're fed, the parents are provided for them. But no situation remains permanent. Tomorrow you'll be an organization, you'll bring that strike, will do away with you. So the moral understanding, moral discipline has to start with you. And I think for me, discipline, if in fact the court, if these children are being taken to court, you see, those are criminals. If they're taken to court, let them be locked there. I think that's something that we entertain. We entertain, because if someone brings down a school, I think that's already a thug. So you should not entertain such thing. And a conversation should be there. Parents should have a workshop with parents. Parents should talk to students. But I don't think there's nothing like pressure for you to pass exams. With the CBC, let these students realize that life in school is just a season and a reason. They'll be out of school and they'll be want to add value. And also think the leaders, our leaders have also messed up. What are they exchange the words and how they behave in the public also demands a lot.
Wow. That was a great insight into the current cases of indiscipline in our schools. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show, and from CSTV, we are very much humbled to have hosted you, Mr. Kevin Osundwa. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and thank you so much for coming to our platform and to share your manifesto and your development agenda and political agenda for the people of Malaha, Isongo, Makunga. I hope I pronounce it well, Makunga ward. We wish you all the best in your political ambitions, and yes, it's our hope that once you are given the position, you can actually, or you are going actually to actualize or execute all these 5-point manifesto that you have actually highlighted. They are very, very powerful development agendas, and we hope that when you get that particular opportunity, hautapotea, hatutaanza kukutafuta tusikupate. So members, kindly subscribe, share, like this video, and remember to take responsibility. We all have a responsibility in electing our leaders. Make sure that you turn out to vote. And remember to have fairly peaceful campaigns, fairly peaceful elections, because there's always life after elections. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for giving me the platform to engage Kenyans, the world out there. And what you're doing is good. But I'm looking forward for you now running your own TV. I love the energy, I love the passion and the focus. So think of converting this into a really TV, and you'll be getting across the world, engaging people.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm very, very much humbled.